You're implying that she's done with the book upside down. It's medical provider, so you're kind of undermining her degree in general, the fact that she is a provider writing orders to save people's lives, and she's holding a medical terminology for dummies upside down. And then the badge, the DO thing. So that's downplaying the importance of DOs and their credentials in general. But you could be highlighting so many cool things that all these providers are doing to save people's lives. And the fact that we're in the midst of a global pandemic and you have nurses, doctors, CNAs, you have so many people doing really important jobs to just battle the fact that we are dealing with this deadly virus, and you're not highlighting the great work that they're doing.
Hello, hello, hello. Welcome back to the Selfie Show, you guys. Today is getting a little spicy over here today. We're getting a little crazy, and we are getting the skinny on the scrubs and social media. But before we get into that clip was from my guest of the show this week, Samantha Manacero. You guys know her. She is a flight nurse, power lifter, Instagram curator, one of my nearest and dearest, a former NICU nurse, and a badass with a loud mouth. She's been on this show 3-4 times now, and we're dropping some massive tea for you guys today. For those of you who don't know me, my name is Tori Meskin, and I'm the founder of the Nurse Tori Selfie Show, a platform dedicated to providers, innovators, journeys, and all the amazing things going on here in the healthcare space. Which brings us to today's episode. So this is actually something I decided this week I wanted to hit head on. And what I'm referring to is the figs fiasco, a heated topic that is going on right now. And I really feel like this is something I didn't want to just let pass by. I really do want to talk about this. And really my goal today is actually really a big picture focus. I think there's a much bigger topic that I want to talk about with you guys, and actually some things that I have, some consistent questions I've gotten from a lot of you anyways, but I think that this particular week and all the things that have happened circling the figs fiasco really leads into some better topics that I want to be talking about with you guys. And let's just think about it this way, okay? Think back to 10 years ago. Media, advertising, TV, it was so different than it is today. And I mean, the original social media, let's say bloggers, right? They all started in like 2007, 8, 9, and 10. And, you know, the whole way of media and advertising, it's all shifting. Things are very rapidly changing in that way. And healthcare in social media is relatively new, right? And I'm constantly getting questions on like, how do you navigate this? How do you get into this situation? And how do you get about this? So today, Sam is going to help me tackle not only the figs situation and to sort of do a recap on some things that we felt were important to talk about, but also we're going to be talking about some awesome tips and tricks to help you navigate this whole social media space as a healthcare provider. I'm going to be helping you understand the platforms, advertising, branding. And honestly, this conversation is going to take you places that I don't even think you knew was an avenue. And I feel like these are a lot of things that I always assume is common knowledge, but maybe it's not, because it's really isn't something that we're discussing in our healthcare world. I feel like everything is still kind of like top secret, like no one's revealing all of their tips and tricks and like what they're doing. And I just feel like in the social media world, because it's so relevant to us and it is something that I'm very passionate about, but it is also something that we have to learn how to navigate, because at the real core of who we are, we're all providers. Whether you are a nurse, an RT, you're a doctor, a PA, an NP, you know, we're at the core of who we are, we're still providers. But I really want to support us in this new world of social media. And so this week presented itself with a very interesting topic and something that I feel we need to be talking about, which is branding, right? And how your personal brand can really be affected by external voices and messages. And so today we're going to get into it. We're going to be talking about all these things, and I am going to be dropping some tips and tricks for you guys, the things that I do pushing forward in my personal experience here. And I'm really excited to get into it today. So without further ado, you guys, let's dive into the show. Guess who's back?
Oh,
back again.
Hey, it's me.
Shady's back.
Samantha's back. Tell a friend. Guess who's back? You guys can't get rid of me.
Got it again.
You guys cannot get rid of me.
No, we can't.
But you love it.
I know.
Low key. Don't act like you're not impressed.
Okay, well, this is actually kind of funny because this is the second time we're recording this.
You know, you live and you learn.
Yeah. So we recorded this, and then basically, long story short, I was listening to it back, and
just not the angle.
It wasn't the angle I wanted to go for. It's just, I think, like, letting things... Okay, here's my style, right? When I really look at who I am, I really like to kind of, like, sit back and look at things as, like, a whole picture. And we let, you know, when people fire off right away, I think that's, like, it's like you're firing from so much emotion that it almost kind of like overclouds things that, you know, I like to see things from a full picture.
Better to be late to the party.
Yes.
And have come in prepared.
Totally. 100%. And kind of like hear
fashionably
things,
late.
Fashionably late. And
but
that is
with
like how I live my life.
But educated on the topic at hand.
I'll be 5 minutes late to work, but I will be damn good when I get there, okay?
Done.
With coffee in hand.
Don't judge me. If I don't have the coffee and I'm on time, you would have rather that I had the coffee and been late.
Absolutely, 100%.
That's just facts.
Okay, so obviously today we're going to be talking about the fig situation.
It is what it is. It's current. Everyone's talking about it. We got to weigh in.
Yeah, we got to weigh in.
We got to just give our little boop on it.
100%. And I think it actually, to me, I actually think it would be really unfortunate to let this go and not address it.
No, because it's not only women in healthcare, it's men because of the male nurse situation in hand. It's the different providers, DO issue. So it's very multifactorial.
Right.
So it needs to be talked about.
Yeah, I agree. And I actually think the kind of interesting part about this whole conversation we're going to have today is that I actually think it opened up a conversation, a bigger conversation that we should be having. And you and I have had a lot of questions about this from my people anyways. And so I think we wanted to weigh in on all things kind of social media and healthcare. Because it's big, right? It's like...
the whole just blogger world or ambassador world, affiliate, athletes, whatever sponsorship that name, spin, take they want to put on it.
Right.
It still all falls under the same umbrella.
Right.
But how everyone conducts themselves under that umbrella is very different.
Right. And something I also, and we very much want to like level the playing field here. Like, this is not battle of the brands. We are not here to cancel or talk about cancel culture. Like, that's not our angle. That's not where we want to come from.
No, I'm not about that life.
And not to mention the fact that, you know, obviously there's bigger things going on in the world today. Like, please go vote.
Please go vote.
Be a good human. If you don't know how, actually, I think it's I'mAvoter.org. You guys, if you have questions, like, I want to drop that as a great resource for you because, hey, that's important. Those are really big things. And not to say that this isn't a big thing, but I actually really, you know, big perspective here.
2020 is a year.
2020 is a year.
There's a lot.
Yeah. So,
all right, do it. Let's hear it.
All right.
What's going on?
So let's go into this. All right. It was a Tuesday morning. And I woke up to a text from a friend. And it basically read like, hey, have you seen this campaign that has gone viral on Twitter? To which I quickly said no, because I don't have Twitter.
Ain't nobody got time.
I don't have time for that.
Twitter's cool,
but so, okay, this is what it is. This video was sent to me, and it was of a woman walking into a picture with the very chic figs background, white clean background, and this woman wearing pink figs faces the camera reading a book that reads Medical Terminology for Dummies upside down with a DO badge on.
Tell everyone what a DO is.
Doctor of Osteopath. Oh boy. Okay. So, this is actually like
there are
interesting.
so many levels to this ad. Where do we go?
Okay,
so many
so
levels.
there's obviously like low hanging fruit on this that we're definitely going to hit. And then we're going to go into big picture. But like, let's just hit the like...
The front and center.
Yeah.
Front and center. It's a woman. You're implying that she's done with the book upside down.
Fabulous.
It's a medical provider. So you're kind of undermining her degree in general. The fact that she is a provider writing orders to save people's lives. And she's holding a medical terminology for dummies upside down.
Right.
And then the badge, the DO thing. So that's downplaying the importance of DOs and their credentials in general, because they are medical doctors.
100%. And actually, I want to say this too. MDs and DOs, you guys, are essentially interchangeable. They attend the same residencies. They attend the same fellowships. The
fellows and attendings at our hospital are a mixture of DOs and
100%.
Yes.
Actually,
our favorite fellow that we worked with in the NICU.
Yeah.
Dan.
Dr. Dan. We love
you,
him.
Dan.
Dr. Dan.
DO.
He was a DO.
The best.
And we love him.
The smartest. I mean, obviously, I know great
and he left
people
us.
in both professions. So rude. He's like, I love cold weather. I'm going to leave California.
Yeah, like what? You don't like warm weather? I don't understand.
Rude. But
okay, and here's the thing too. In a year that DOs are being so unfairly targeted.
Yeah, so I mean, politics right now, COVID, we know COVID this year.
Yes.
But then, our president got COVID.
Yes,
I'm not going to go there because if you follow my personal page, you know how I feel.
Yeah.
So I'm not going to do that today.
Yes.
But I will say that there was some people in the media coming out because Trump's doctor...
Rachel Maddow said it.
Yeah, Rachel Maddow said it.
He was only getting prescribed by a doctor of osteopathy.
Why is a osteopathic doctor giving us updates on the president's healthcare status and not like a medical doctor?
Right.
So misinformed, so uneducated, that comment, to imply that a DO doesn't have the capability to be the president's doctor or to provide accurate information about the healthcare status or anything like that. That was a huge knock at DOs and it's uneducated.
Not to mention the fact that, it's really weird to me, or thinking about this, like this is the year, 2020 was the year where literally frontline providers are losing their lives. We are literally in a time where, in unprecedented times, where we started out this year as, the glorified heroes, if you will. And I don't know, people are literally losing their lives.
Yeah. How did we go from thank you, healthcare heroes, to, oh, you're so cute in your pink scrubs holding your medical book upside down?
And just degrading women, degrading the healthcare profession, like as a whole.
Pitting different degrees against each other. Poor form.
Well, okay, and the other thing too, which I thought was really interesting this week, because you and I kind of we sat back and kind of let things go as they were, right? And the interesting thing that I thought that I saw was how the medical community came together so well to defend DOs in general.
Yes.
There were so many amazing things that came out of this, in the sense of
physicians that didn't take the DO path sticking up for their medical counterparts.
Correct.
Saying that they took the DO route to get the same job that I have, and they are amazing providers.
100%.
So I love that. Love to see it.
Yeah. And the other thing too, which I think is crazy, is what I realized this week is if you attack the medical community, we fiercely come back at it. If you're going to attack us and it felt like an attack. It really did. It was something where I feel that particular, pictures and videos are worth 1,000, if not 1,000,000 words. And it felt like actually the irony of this is how I love how much the medical community actually came together. And we're talking about it. Why? Because this is relevant.
Well, I think we're standing up for ourselves to say, hey, we do an important job, respect us. Because the video that's getting the most talked about is the DO and the female provider. But there was also a second ad that was a male nurse.
Yeah.
And he was holding a Nursing for Dummies book upside down, and it was a male nurse featured. And I feel like male nurses already get poorly treated or stigmatized for why are you a nurse and not a doctor?
Right.
One, that's diminishing the fact that nursing is a degree. It's a healthcare degree. It's an important role. It's not lesser than a doctor. Yes, doctors give us orders, but we still have a lot of autonomy in nursing. Mm-hmm. And just because you're a nurse doesn't mean you couldn't make it as a doctor. I don't want to ever be a doctor. No offense. I love my doctors. That's just life. That lifestyle wasn't for me. That route wasn't for me. That wasn't my path. I'm smart as shit. Mm-hmm. I could probably be a great doctor if I wanted to. And trust
maybe
me,
you will one day. We'll
I'm never going back to school. I got a master's degree. I'm cool. I'm not paying another dime in tuition.
Great.
But
fabulous.
And I will go toe to toe with a doctor. And doctors respect me because of it, because I don't just like spout off at the mouth. I mean, I do a lot. But when I come to them and question maybe their decision making, I'm not doing it in a way that's critical of them. It's, hey, let's have this conversation. This is what I know, because I do bring a lot to the table. I have been a nurse for a long time, and I teach nursing school as well. I don't know. I work a lot by myself on a helicopter, and I have to make a lot of decisions without a doctor there. So when I come to them and question them, it's from a place of respect, but they respect me because I bring a lot to the table. So I just feel like putting down a male nurse by saying, why aren't you like a doctor? That's a thing that we still see culturally, or that it's a women's job. And that's also not true, because women can be respiratory therapists. They can be nurses. They can be doctors. They can be PTs. They can be whatever they want. And it's not a women profession. Men in nursing is a very important role as 100%. Well. So thank you, nurses. Growing. We love you. And so that's why it was just so problematic in so many different ways.
100%. And, you said this earlier today, but, there's nothing really cute about us giving you CPR and pushing epi to save your life. Like, no offense, but I take that job very seriously. And I think it's something that particular ad, I don't think they realized, obviously, how much sting that would give the healthcare and the medical world. It's so done.
Because know your demographic.
Right.
And celebrate what we do well.
Correct.
Like, I get it. I don't. But it's cute to poke fun maybe. And maybe they thought they were being lighthearted by just doing a funny joke. And we're nurses, or just healthcare providers in general. We have a sick sense of humor. We laugh. Trust me. No one makes fun of myself more than myself. Right. But in general, you could be highlighting people wearing your scrubs doing amazing things. The fact that we are doing chest compressions on you, we're pushing epi. Yeah. I'm out there in the field and have to do like things. I'm an advanced practice like scope nurse. I'm not advanced practice as the NP, but I'm an advanced scope above a regular nurse inside the hospital. And I do some cool shit sometimes. Like we do chest needle thoracentesis. I think I mentioned that before. It gives me anxiety every time just thinking about it, because in nursing school was like, that's a doctor's job. Like you could be highlighting so many cool things that all these providers are doing to save people's lives. And the fact that we're in the midst of a global pandemic and you have
we still are
nurses, doctors, CNAs. Mm-hmm. You have so many people doing really important jobs to just battle the fact that we are dealing with this deadly virus, and you're not highlighting the great work that they're doing and the amazing things.
Like, I feel like, okay, surface level too, not to mention the fact that you are mocking the people that you're trying to serve, right?
Yeah.
Like that doesn't make sense.
Like
there's that.
You want me to buy your scrubs,
right?
But like, and then, think am I even smart enough to go on the website and buy them if I read books upside down?
Right. Not to mention the fact that, I mean, my head's going back to like the heat of the pandemic, and, Barco, for example, donated 100,000 scrubs to the cause. I know Cherokee donated $1 million. Like there were these companies that really stepped up to help. And I know that these I just feel like this moment was so
Free Crocs. I wore my Crocs today in honor of Tori because she loves them so much.
Oh my
But
God.
like Crocs
I
gave
do
away
not
a free
understand.
pair.
You guys, still the Crocs situation. I can't.
They're
I
so
cannot. Can we
cool.
address that? Like, no.
Yes.
Strict no.
I have 5 pairs now. And
I'm on Team Clogs. Sorry. Here
just
we go.
know you put those
Gross.
Crocs in sport mode and you are ready for a code. So
understand.
anyways, like companies really stepped up to the plate to say, thank you.
Correct.
And I don't think I've this year in 2020 gotten more thank yous and food and treats and free stuff from
Well, not
companies.
to say that's what it's about.
It's not, but it's like the first time that I was like, wow, I feel genuinely like appreciative by the public for what we do. Think about it. Every industry, you get your hair done. You tip them. You tip your waiter and waitress. I'm not to say these people don't deserve tips.
Right.
But everyone in the service industry, you tip them. Mm-hmm. We're not in the service industry, but our job is a job of service. I don't expect tips. I don't want tips. There are hospital rules about accepting gifts from patients and things like that. That's not a route I ever want to go down. But in general, because of that type of thing, it's often a thankless job.
Yes, 100%. But actually, let's talk about this because I think it's an interesting thing that just popped in my head. Doctors taking compensation or commission on medications they prescribe, or like being able to be taken out by a medical, you know what I mean? Like that's kind of interesting.
We do our computer modules every year that talks about the ethics of, I forget even what the word is, but for what you're allowed to take as gifts from people. And, you know, I've been to a lot of luncheons sponsored by this formula company or sponsored by the maker of this feeding pump or this IV supplier. And who doesn't love free food? But there's a fine line, and you have there's people at the hospital where their just job is to enforce those type of kickbacks and stuff from happening. And I don't think I'm educated enough on the medical
well, we're going to go
side.
into it a little bit today because it's going to tie into our conversation today. But I just, for some reason, popped into my head. It's like, well, there is some interesting things.
There is. And I think that kind of just goes hand in hand with social media and the fine line that you take by working with companies.
Right. Okay. And something else that I thought was, I want to give a quote here today. So obviously, Sam and I kind of sat back, let things happen. We're like, you know, doing our due diligence and listening to what everyone has to say. Okay, so Dr. Mike dropped an amazing YouTube.
Honestly, I hats off to him.
Yes.
Because he's smart, he's well-spoken.
Very
You can
well-spoken.
tell it's coming from a good place of caring about his community.
Correct.
And he put his money where his mouth is.
Yeah, he does.
So,
Okay,
hats
so
off
he actually, at the end of the video, he said he donated $20,000
to anyone who wants any brand of
Scrubs.
scrubs, not just a certain brand. Any brand of scrubs, he's putting up his money to help out students or whoever that needs scrubs.
Let's talk about, so the whole premise that he spoke about, which I thought was really interesting, was he was basically calling out FIGS for riding on the backs of medical providers in the way that they advertise. So as of right now, the way that the model is I believe the providers reach out to FIGS and then FIGS sends the scrubs in exchange for a post, right? So Dr. Mike, he spoke out about that. And he was basically, and we're going to go into detail about sort of social media and healthcare. But his whole thing about it was, why is a company worth, let's say, $100 million? They did $100 million in sales in 2018, riding on the backs of healthcare providers who are trying to get through med school, nursing school, all these things. And you brought up a good point too, you know, even like models get paid for photo shoots.
Yeah.
Like, how is it that...
Tori and I had a conversation pre-recording this.
Yeah.
Where it was kind of like, there's two different trains of thoughts. Like, if someone wants to post for free because they got a free pair of scrubs, great. Why should they? That's their right. And Tori kind of made that comment. And I was like, it is. And we did it at one point.
100%.
Too.
I did. Yeah.
Yeah. But then I was like, all right, on the flip side of that, though, what Dr. Mike is kind of saying is that you're preying on the people that maybe only have 800 followers, 2,000 followers, or whatever. And now you're sending them a free pair of scrubs and you're enticing them into maybe getting reposted, getting more followers, being part of this community. And it is super great to be part of a community. And I think we can get into that. But I think it's preying on people that don't really have what they'd consider the upper hand in being able to demand compensation.
100%.
And how easy would it be? Okay, a pair of free scrubs, that's a drop in the bucket to $1 million company like that. Probably a tax write-off. I don't know. I need a new tax person because I owe every year, so I'm clearly not good at that situation. But in general, a free pair of scrubs to someone, that's nothing. That's part of their advertising budget, and it's a lot cheaper than making a giant commercial and putting it on TV. I mean, how much is a Super Bowl ad?
100%.
Like, holy shit, I don't even know. But so you're getting this free advertisement with the cost of like a cheap pair of scrubs. Their scrubs aren't cheap, but in general, in the grand scheme, you're giving them this free pair of scrubs. How far would it go to even throw them $50? A gift
how much
card
would
with
that
it.
mean to that
And how much would that mean to them? So you're in nursing school and you got to buy books, supplies. You got to put gas in your car. You got to buy groceries. Maybe you got to pay for a babysitter to go to class, whatever. $50 goes a long way when you're a student or you're in MD school or whatever profession you're in.
Surviving on loans.
Yeah.
I mean, not to mention the fact that, and I think a bigger picture here and kind of what you alluded to is they have a very enticing platform, right? They have 503,000 followers. That's a lot. And not to mention the fact that their engagement is pretty high.
And let's be real, they're hip.
Yes.
They're cool.
Yes.
Their scrubs look nice.
And they have a lot of great ambassadors. Like the top ones that I'm thinking of in my head, like they have a lot of great people with them. I mean, I'm friends with them. I love like the community that they have made in their defense is amazing.
Yes. And their ambassadors are great role models within the healthcare community.
Correct.
So they have got some great people on their team. But I think what Dr. Mike's angle was know your worth.
Yes.
Not only one as a consumer, because we're buying your product and how are you choosing to highlight us in the world with your advertising? And then two, know your worth if you are going the ambassador route or you're trying to become part of the healthcare blogger world and community. Know your worth because it's enticing. I know when I started my account and I started getting free stuff, I was like, this is cool.
Yeah,
I don't care
really cool.
about,
like,
I'm not trying to monetize this. I'm just happy to get free scrubs. That's how I started off. But at the end of the day, know your worth because essentially they're making more off of you doing that than is worth a free pair of scrubs.
That. Yes.
Know your worth because no one is going to value you more than you value yourself.
Yes. So he said, quote, I have always questioned the ethics of this company based on the way they take advantage of young doctors. But now with this dedicated marketing campaign, putting down women and DOs, it's become clear that you should shop elsewhere. That's pretty strong words.
That's a statement.
It's a big statement. And I think something that you highlighted on that I think is really important for everyone to understand is knowing your worth. Now, I do think and we're going to get into it a little bit more on the social media aspect. Like there is a difference and, where we're going to dive into it of, are you just posting one for a one-off or are you trying to become a bigger picture with a brand? Are you trying to, are you trying to long-term
Are you trying to build your own brand?
Correct. So we're going to get into that. But I feel like, some other kind of low-hanging fruit on this topic that a lot of people brought up. So I dropped a question box for you guys to see, kind of like test the waters, see where everyone was at. And you guys, if I sat here and read all these, I actually got more rants from people I think than I've ever had in my life. I had more people trying to write in about that. But the topic
you showed it to me. It was a
insane.
Massive outreach.
I got anything from the biggest mistake I've ever said, just another red flag. I have always questioned the way that they influence. I'm not here for cancel culture, but this was not the first ad that I'm disappointed in. Some people say likely a mistake. Another person as a female DO, I could not be more upset about this, disappointed. The rants, you guys, they go on and on. I mean, And, you know, a lot of it was, I'm not a fan of cancel culture, but some people, assholes, you know, just annoying, all these things. Okay, so the topics that range were like more issues on race, shapes, price, material representation. Like those were kind of the overarching issues. And I think that is something we should talk about. I mean, the look of the brand obviously is what it is. It's for athletic male and female bodies.
I will say I am a sponsored athlete as a power lifter, and I don't fit the athletic body type that is their demographic.
Right.
Because your girl got some curves.
Hey, girl. Yes, you do. In all the right ways. I love it.
It does not, like, if I wore their joggers, I would look like the Michelin Man. It's just not working for me. And that's okay, because that style's not for everyone, and that's cool. Yeah. But overall, in general, I don't think they make plus size scrubs.
I actually don't. Yeah, I don't know about that. And I think they only really have one type of material as well. They only
so I like the material, so I am here for that. But they, you know, plus size people work in healthcare. Plus size people want to look good.
Yeah, you know, and this is why I give big shout out to Cherokee and what Katie Duke just did. She just created a whole line.
Stuff. Yes.
Yeah, she created a whole line, and her whole thing, and she really talked about that was just, you know, we have to be able to, you know, create amazing apparel for every shape
I will
and size.
speak to it. I'm on their website. They do go up to a 2XL, but I will talk about their problematic sizing. I wear a large in their scrub pants. I am not a plus size person anymore. Right. I was plus size for sure. And I had to wear super ugly scrubs because that's all that they had for my plus size body.
Okay.
I am not plus size anymore. I'm sitting in a size 6 jeans right now, and I wear a large in their scrubs, and it is a tight large. It is a very snug large. Yeah. So I guarantee you that their 2XL is not comparable to the 2XL I wore when I was actually a plus size person in a 2XL. Right. Sizing is definitely just an overall thing in the whole plus size world and just how companies do sizing. Right. That's a whole nother podcast. Listen to our body images.
That's coming up in a couple weeks.
Coming up soon. Yes. But anyway, so, you know, I'm on their website. I'm like, that's cool. I think the 2XL is a new size in the recent times. But I can tell you, as someone who is a competitive power lifter and who is not overweight, I already wear a size large in their scrubs.
Right.
So is that really serving the plus size community?
Well, that's not the only thing too. I mean, a big one was, you know, the big comments overarching was they're overpriced, that there was representation in races is not always 100%. I mean, they're getting a lot of people had a lot of things to say about this. And regardless of the intent, it just didn't look good. The whole thing overall, it didn't look good.
No, because even I will say, like, as you're doing this problematic ad with women DO and a male nurse, I was still it was a blonde haired white girl.
Yeah.
In the ad.
And the guy was white. I
think pretty sure it was whitish
as well.
Looking pretty white.
Yeah.
On the whiter side. I think he had dark hair, but I'm like, you got a blonde girl wearing pink scrubs. So I don't know if that's even falling into the ditzy blonde thing, which is problematic in itself.
Yeah, someone did say, like,
that's
one
not
of the
cool.
comments was like legal satire esque on the ad. Like, they were like, maybe that's what they were going for.
Get away from the ditzy blonde stereotype. It's overplayed. This isn't the 90s anymore. Like, let's not go that route. That's like, come on. But in general, you don't see a lot of representation. And a time where also, again, 2020 has been this wild year of highlighting healthcare professions, aside from just even nurses and doctors, because we get most of the clout. But the fact that there's so many other healthcare professions that are tackling on this global pandemic. And then it's been a big year of civil unrest and discussing racial issues in this country.
Very much at the forefront.
Very much at the forefront, very much needed. But there's a lot happening in that space. So at a time where all of that's going on, you got to wake up. And you know what? They did apologize.
Yeah, so they did actually, they issued an apology. I'll go ahead and, so they said, as of right now, so I think this was released on October 15th. The company said they will have a healthcare professional, quote, present at every shoot to weigh in on the creative and styling decisions, and that there will be a more robust approval process for its brand content. Beyond that, FIGS will be requiring educational training for its employees and said it is donating $100,000 to the American Osteopathic Association. The Doctor of Osteopath, or DO, receives all the training of a typical doctor. Obviously, we all know that. And then, so the other thing that was funny that I thought was interesting was the AOA, Dr. Kevin Klauf, who's the chief executive officer of the AOA, was really not happy about it and was threatening the company with a lawsuit and wanted to slap them with defamation on behalf of our members and profession. So, of course, when they released this apology, his response was, don't pretend this came from the goodness of your hearts. It's just...
They have to apologize.
They have to apologize. And
obviously.
We knew they would. And we also know, obviously, like, the ambassadors... You have to kind of sit back and let happen what's going to happen. Like, ambassadors are going to stick with them. They're going to apologize. We know all that. Like, and that's so point blank.
The apology in it of itself, it's great. It has to happen. I'm not going to weigh in on whether it's sincere or not because only them, that's between them and God or whoever, if it's sincere.
Well, okay, no. And this is where I think you and I have talked about this. I think that's between them and us. Like, we're the boss.
True.
Like, we're the ones with the money in our hands, and we're the ones that are putting money into their pockets. So really, it is up to us.
Yes. So, okay, apology issued.
Okay.
Here's my take on, though. Do we accept apology? Yes or no?
Got it.
I don't think you have to be quick to do either. So you apologize. I'm not going to quickly just be like, beautiful, you apologized, you threw some money at it, I accept. But I'm not going to sit there and write you off either and be like, psh, that wasn't sincere, whatever. I'm in the, all right, apology, words are step one. I'm not going to take a side yet because those were just words.
Correct.
I got to see the actions now that follow it.
Yeah.
What is your future advertising actually going to look like? How are you going to actually interact with your ambassadors and promote them and work with them? What are you going to do as far as promoting like other healthcare professions, such as like DOs and things like that? You can be using your platform for so many good things to educate the public. How cool would it have been to do an advertisement featuring a DO, especially when DOs are getting kind of some bad press with the whole President Trump COVID shit.
Right.
How cool would it have been to take that DO and show how cool they are? Yeah. And how important they are and the important job they do. Educate people because, a lot of people, I have family that has no healthcare knowledge whatsoever. My family didn't even know what a respiratory therapist was until my stepdad was in the hospital. And then they're like, oh, an RT? And I'm like, okay, that's like my partner when I go on.
Yeah, it's like
calls.
Our lifeline in the
my
NICU. Yeah.
Literal best friend in life when I'm on a call is my RT.
Same.
Because it's me in an RT in a helicopter. And that is my number one human.
Yeah.
So, but so many people don't know because if they haven't had a family member sick in the hospital and they don't work in healthcare, how the hell are they going to know the difference between a PT and an OT?
Right. Exactly.
How are they going to know what a CNA scope is? That in art, there's a whole job. Some people, I've heard my even own family say, oh, the respiratory nurse. I'm like, that doesn't exist. They're a respiratory therapist. They have bachelor's degrees and even master's degrees. Mm-hmm. Like they are also very highly educated people. They could be using their platform to help provide so much just education and be uplifting all these professions in such a positive way.
Right.
So apology step one, it's good. I'm glad that they did step one, but I'm going to take a seat again and let's see what actions follow that before I can actually, and I'm not for cancel culture. So I'm not like everyone makes mistakes.
Yeah, but
I make mistakes all the time.
I think the issue too is this isn't the first time Figs has been under fire for something, and something I do think is important. I mean, for example, I know there's a lot of claims around they were the first direct-to-consumer scrub company, and actually Metalita, it was created by Laura Francisco. She's a PA. And they were the first direct-to-consumer brand. And she founded Metalita and launched a collection of the tailored medical apparel and quickly caught on with a lot of healthcare professionals. I know a lot of people who are ambassadors with them. They're an amazing company. I mean, I look at like Barco. Barco was established, you guys, in 1929. It is a 91-year company. They've been around for a long time. Cherokee, they were founded in 1985, and they were the first company to really establish an ambassadorship program. And, we had Katie on our last episode where we talked about how they really pushed the mark and started really bringing in healthcare providers as, their essential like representation of the company.
Which I love the idea of using real people.
Real people.
Like in that ad anyways, I'm pretty sure that girl is not a DO.
She's a model.
She's just a model.
Yeah. And if that was a healthcare provider,
it wouldn't be, because no healthcare provider would be down to like diss themselves like that.
No.
So I just feel like using models to make fun of us. I don't know. I love the fact when companies use real people to highlight their scrubs. Like, I don't care what a model looks like in your scrubs, because guess what? I'm wearing them. I'm the one bending over and like grabbing medical equipment and running in a code and having to work and move in it. So you showcasing, that model looks cute in it, does nothing for what I'm going to look like at the bedside wearing these scrubs, moving in these scrubs, feeling in these scrubs.
Yeah.
Not to knock models, they're awesome. And I love seeing in even just the actual fashion world that they've moved towards more inclusivity.
Yeah, the influencers are getting bigger. And
shout out to Rihanna and Fenty for having the plus size male model.
Ooh, yeah.
I was here for it.
Love that.
He was cutie pie.
Great.
I was down.
Cool.
But I just think as scrub companies, your consumers are real working people. Show them. Yeah. Show them off. Highlight them.
And I think it's so cool.
Celebrate.
I mean, and we're going to dabble into this too, because, this is why I feel like so strongly that I love people getting the medical field getting into social media. I think it's great and I'm here for it. And I want that to be like, I want it to come in so fierce and strong just for these reasons. Cause I'm like, how do you battle something like this or talk about it without a platform, right? Yeah. Like you need to have a platform to do it. And
that's why I love your podcast though. Cause it's like, we don't have a lot of platforms.
No, we don't.
And there's it's like hit or miss. Like, okay, if you follow certain people on Instagram, you're getting connected and getting some of this information. But if you don't, it's 100%. Like, cool. So, shout out to my girl Tori for the Selfie podcast, because you're dropping some
Well, and there's a few of us here in this space, but I will say this. I do think, and what I want to move into here is more like, okay, you guys, the realness of this is we are in 2020. We're in a time where
we're almost in 2021.
We're almost in 2021.
Hello, where are we?
Crazy. And, marketing and the way, like, think about like when you and I were growing up, how different it was.
Oh my God. I used to look in catalogs for what toys I wanted.
Yes.
And I would circle and be like, or like newspaper, like toy ads, like, Mom, I want this toy for Christmas.
Yeah. And the only way to like get on a commercial was if you auditioned at like this thing, and the media funneled everything. Like everything was so censored by.
You only saw what commercials decided to put out.
Yeah.
There was no internet.
Right. There was no internet. I mean, and just think even like 5 years ago, how different it was. I mean, before even TikTok, Instagram
started as a picture filtering app. Yeah. A photography app. The day I passed NCLEX, my first Instagram picture was a flight of mimosas.
Love it.
And I was like, I'm going to drop this super cool filter on it so that I can post that picture onto Facebook.
It was not.
Because you couldn't follow people. Instagram, there was no following each other. And then all of a sudden it was like, so-and-so's following you. How? I am confused. Why can they see? Why can someone else who signed up for Instagram see my pictures all of a sudden? And then they added the like feature, and then they added the comments. And now here we are just in this whole world of influencers.
Well, but
that has like been, that came out of nowhere.
I think what is interesting about this conversation is influencers and blogging and everything really It started in like, let's call it 2010, 2009, 2007,
Blogging.
2010 blogging.
Yes.
And
was a thing.
it started in that era where
even
like
YouTube, it then was starting to take off of people having their YouTube channels and doing vlogs.
It was starting like this whole thing. And, you know, I'm going to give hats off to mommy bloggers, all the Mormon mommy bloggers who really started, because they first of all killed it, but they also changed the whole model of how we advertise.
Yes.
They basically were the first ones. I'm going to give credit where credit's due. They were the first ones to really say, hey, like, you can follow someone and follow their lifestyle, and I can sell something to you on a lifestyle model.
Yes.
Like, as a person, rather than take it away from, you know, you can only get your information from one thing, and, you know, all of a sudden,
commercials, magazines.
Right. And now here we are, and it's the Wild West. Like, it's the Wild West here in the social media space. I will say that. And it's growing immensely. It's not going anywhere. And this is why I want to have this conversation today, because, like, I think it's very relevant for us in healthcare to be here in this space more now than ever, especially, I mean, look at what happened with the pandemic. Like, I feel like, thank God for some of these providers who were in the social media space. That spoke up.
Yeah.
And could speak to this very well. And it's important for us to be
Some, like,
here.
lost their jobs for speaking out against the lack of PPE and stuff. And it's like, it is within their right to talk about what's going on, especially from a public safety and health concern standpoint, such as PPE and proper isolation gear and just what we're doing, and are we following CDC guidelines and stuff. Like, these things should be talked about.
Yes. And, you know, here's the thing too. And the big thing, and what I think is really relevant to this whole big conversation is, you know, we in the medical field, we have different obligations than quote unquote influencers. Why?
Yes.
Because we took oaths. We were studying, researching. We had years of training, practice, and therefore I feel like we have even more of a moral obligation to provide our audiences the highest standard, right? So obviously that's the first thing. And a big piece of what Dr. Mike spoke about, and what I think is interesting, is that he sort of called out FIGS for the way they're advertising. And I thought that was interesting. He basically said, like, riding on the backs of healthcare providers, right? And I think that there's this whole layer of that we're not talking about. Like, why are we not talking about the whole aspect of healthcare providers in social media? You know, and I kind of want to tackle this today. Like, what's what? Paid partnerships, sponsorships, like, you know, how do you start a blog? How do you get into
people that
this?
are actually, like, in that world don't even understand it.
100%.
Like, they're getting free stuff, they're posting. They don't even know if they're following the actual proper
Correct
rules about what all those different terminologies mean.
Yes. So, and what you're referring to is the Federal Trade Commission Act. So that was an act that went into effect, you guys, 1914, right? And it basically is a law that outlaws unfair methods of competition and unfair acts of practice that affect commerce. And, you know, for us in healthcare, like, we don't pay attention to that, right? Because we're out there diagnosing and researching and studying and caring for our patients, and we're not influencing. We're working. We're actually working. But then here we are diving into this world of, like, social media. And, you know, that's not going anywhere, as I said. But I also think, like, what's interesting is where it used to be just athletes and actors and all these things, now we're starting to have healthcare as a presence, and on YouTube and on Instagram and all these things. And so, and of course, you want to monetize. You want to figure out how to make this all work. And you want to, you know, potentially partner with companies, and you want to have, you know, get platformed, and you want to do all these things. Well, I think this is a whole great conversation that we should be having and talking about, because it's not going anywhere.
And I think the thing is, you're taking real people and real professions and putting them in this world that, like you said, used to be kind of reserved for actors, athletes, people that already have managements and agents kind of managing all that for them.
Right.
And now you're taking real people doing, you know, real jobs. Not to say those aren't real jobs, but they're doing jobs within the healthcare industry. And then now you're kind of thrusting them into this spotlight.
Yeah.
And it's a world that maybe they don't even know how to navigate.
Yeah. And it's a totally crazy world of navigating. I mean, let's talk about the types of the platforms, right? So the main platforms, you know, you're talking when you're thinking about social media. So you're going Instagram, Twitter, TikTok, YouTube, Facebook, Snapchat, Pinterest, LinkedIn, right? So these are all platforms. And it's interesting because when I really was trying to think of how to break this down for you guys, something that I really am engaged in, like what the platforms do for you, right? And to me, the number one thing I actually think is really important to talk about is to really get into a platform that you feel like is your strength. So what I mean by that is if you're someone who likes to write and you like dialogue and conversations, Twitter might be for you. Versus if you're like someone who's like me, visual and likes to make videos and things like that, Instagram might be for you. If you are someone that's trying to platform or get some traction to a blog, Pinterest is for you. You know, it's like you have to really kind of
the
break
funny
down.
Creatives are on TikTok. And you know what's funny is someone can have 1 million TikTok followers and like 6,000 Instagram followers.
It doesn't always translate.
It doesn't like always translate from platform to platform too.
Yeah, and it's interesting because that's kind of a big thing is like crossing platforms and trying to figure out what they do for you. And I feel like it is interesting because now some of the platforms are really trying to help you get to other platforms. Like now TikTok, you can post to Instagram or somehow you can link your Instagram from TikTok.
Stories you can post your TikTok to stories.
Right.
Yeah.
So there's that whole aspect. The other aspect, and what I think is even more important, and I've learned this from several other bigger influencers, is really how to hold your power in the social media space. And what do I mean by that? What I mean by that is creating content or your platforms where no one owns you. What do I mean by that?
I feel like you've learned a lot coming up in this world too.
Yes.
I've watched you grow.
Yeah. I mean, I've told you so many things that I'm like, I just, yeah.
You live and you learn.
You live and learn, and I've lived and learned. And something that I've learned very quickly is I don't own my Instagram platform, you guys. I don't own it. Instagram owns it.
Yeah.
They own you. They could take it away. And let's say, God forbid, Instagram went away tomorrow.
You got your blog 100%. And you got your podcast.
So there's this whole other set of types of platforms that I think are really important that we don't talk about enough. So for example, blogs, email lists, podcasts, courses you can create, ebooks, writing a book. And the number one thing that I think we talk about is relationships. What a weird thought. Here, okay, social media, you guys, the word social media, it is social. That's the focus of it, right? The relationships you build. That's a huge piece of it. And so God forbid in my head, I'm like, have I given enough to my audience that if something happened in my Instagram, they would actually try and find me? Like, would anyone care?
Yeah, would they still come listen to your podcast if you didn't have Instagram to promote it?
Yes.
Just like how they almost like shut down TikTok.
Yeah.
And people were panicking on there, begging, please follow me on Instagram in case TikTok gets shut down.
Yes. And so I think a big focus or something, because, you know, you guys, this is new. It's Wild West. Things are still, you know, it's all happening very fast. I think something that I think is really important, and the most important, if you take nothing away from this episode other than this, is to understand that your name is your brand.
Yeah. Which is a wild concept.
Wild.
I'm still not used to it.
I'm not either.
I'm a real, you know, I'm on like Frosh Soft. I'm not even on the JV team yet.
I feel like I'm JV, girl.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm JV.
Varsity.
I don't think I'm like
varsity.
Varsity's like your, I'm not varsity. Like
I think you're varsity because then there's like,
Katie,
you know, there's
Duke
professional.
Varsity.
There's professional athletes. So those are our Kylie Jenners.
Okay.
She's a professional.
Got it.
Then you got the college team.
Yeah.
You know, you're a Division I college team.
Yeah.
That's our Katie Duke.
Katie
Sup,
Duke.
girl?
Yeah. Hi.
You D1.
Yeah. You D1, girl.
You're on the varsity team. You're starting quarterback of varsity.
Yeah. High school, I would say.
I'm promoting myself from Frosh Soft to JV.
I like JV.
If we're going the model I just created off the top of my head, I'm on the JV team.
Yeah.
I'm hoping, like, you know, I'm a sophomore on JV, not too bad. I'm hoping to make varsity junior year.
Yes.
2021, can a girl make varsity? I'm trying. But it's a definitely
it's an interesting dynamic.
It's a weird concept to sit there and say, you know, your brand is Nurse Tori. This is the Nurse Tori selfie show. Yeah. That's your name.
Yeah.
I'm Hey Samantha. You can find me on Instagram. Hey Samantha with 2 A's. Little Drop that. But in
plug.
general, like, and then my website is SamanthaExplains.com.
Yeah.
And I'm trying to brand myself as my own name and being. That's
Right.
weird.
Yes, it is weird. And I think that's something
But you got to get over it too. You're either going for it or you're not.
Yeah.
So,
And I think that's something we should be talking about is the fact that, self-branding nowadays is the model. And honestly, it's so important to really protect your brand of who you are. And something that
everything you say and do is your brand.
Is your brand. And also who you partner with.
Yes.
And what I think is really interesting is this particular situation, I think, is really making a lot of people question in my head, it should be making you question who you partner with.
Yeah. Who do I want to represent? Because I'm saying that this is a company I believe in.
Yes.
If I'm putting my name attached to theirs.
And I think it's really interesting because I think that something that I really want to bring to you guys today is a lot of the talk of like, how do you navigate this, right? Like, how do you navigate coming into healthcare and doing it right? Because there's a lot of different topics we're going to kind of deep dive into, but we really have to be cautious about not only what we're saying, not violating HIPAA, but also who we're partnering with. You have to be really smart. And I think the thing is you really have to think almost like 10 steps ahead. Like, what is your goal here in social media? And think 10 steps ahead of what if this was to happen? Or where do I want to go with this? How do I want to expand as a brand? And the thing about it is, my platforms here have changed a lot.
Yeah.
I've shifted a lot. I started kind of in the NICU blogger world and I still do a little bit of that, but I've really kind of shifted and, we're going different places, but it's been a lot of trial and error. But I think the number one thing that I've really stuck to is what is my brand? And I want to stick to that. And I think that's something we really need to hone in on. And it really is something that I think I've really tried to hone in on what I'm bringing to you, my audience. Like, what can I bring to you guys that is so authentic and real and, top-notch quality, whether it's scrubs or it's lifestyle or it's a podcast guest or a blog post that I'm writing for you guys. Like, that is it is so important to me that when you think of me, it is not cheap. And I think what's happening, and
You've said that from day one. I remember you buying these mics for this podcast.
Yeah.
And you were like, my sound quality has to be impeccable or I'm not making a podcast.
100%.
And you were like a nut researching these mics.
Oh my God, it was crazy. We were both like,
Yes.
You were helping me. Sam, okay, give you credit. She sat with me for hours trying to figure all this stuff out. And
But you were like, I don't want to put my name on something if it's not quality that I stand behind. And I give you props for that because you're like, I'm not going to rush to throw stuff out.
Right.
If it's not something that I'm going to put my name on and be like, Nurse Tori approved.
Right. And
quality.
I think that's kind of something also, because I keep seeing this it's happening over and over where you're seeing a lot of people feeling the need to just partner with someone because they're throwing them some money and they want to, put up a product and sit with the picture and post it. And I'm like, I just feel
if I went through my DMs and said yes to everything that came my way, one, you would be like,
yeah,
what do you even like? This all feels fake.
Right.
Because there's no way you use all these products.
Yeah.
It feels fake at some point. It's like you're just saying yes to everyone.
100%. So one of the questions that I got was, how do you grow your Instagram? Like, that was the first question in relating to healthcare and social media and kind of just maybe as a point blank. And it's funny because I've thought a lot about this, right? And I actually think, to be honest, I think that's the wrong question. Mm-hmm. I think, in my humble opinion and the way I've always thought, is what am I bringing to my audience?
Yeah.
Am I bringing value to someone? That should be the center of your thought process. And then you just
It's
sort
not
of
about
expand
how
from there.
many followers.
No, it's not.
Because one, it should be organic because there's a lot of tips and tricks to grow your following that are kind of just a sham. Mm-hmm. And it's like, is that a real organic following? And are they following you because of quality content you're putting out? No. So you could Google, you could hire people, you could pay people to grow your following, but it's not authentic. It's not organic.
Yeah.
And it's not because of the quality content you're putting out.
Branding is everything. Everything. When you're going to social media, like, who are you? What are you saying? What are you providing? And I think that should really be your focus, and your people will come.
And is it unique, and is it your own?
Correct.
Because how many people can regurgitate the same information over and over?
Yeah. I've had...
Like, there's a million nurses. We are a large profession. What are you bringing different to the table? Like, there's some few notable nurses that have really blown up because they're bringing certain specialties into place. Like, you really honed in on the NICU markets and you've kind of expanded your thing.
Yeah.
There's other ones that have really, like, are trauma or CVICU, or like mommy labor nurse who's really got that, like,
amazing.
She's amazing, but she's got that whole expecting mother demographic or things like that.
Totally.
There's like healthy high risk pregnancy. There's some doctor I follow that's like pregnancy after 35 or something.
Yeah.
There's a lot of people that I follow because
You have Kat Golden, who did Nurses Inspire Nurses,
which is amazing.
She's doing apparel,
bringing like this nursing community together.
Yes.
So the people that I follow in the nursing space, it's because they are bringing something unique.
Correct.
And no one else is doing what they're doing.
Yes.
There's a bunch of people that are kind of a dime a dozen,
Yeah.
or they're trying to kind of go into the same market someone else might already have an edge on, but they're not coming up with original content in that space.
And you can see it. And I want to make this comment because Sam knows exactly what I'm thinking here. It's interesting.
You get knocked off all the time. I'm just going to say it.
Yes.
You're nicer than I am. I'll say it. Tori gets knocked off.
Yeah.
Her posts. Sometimes there's people out there. I've looked at posts where they copy her word for word,
verbatim.
her captions.
Yep.
It blows my mind. Like, why do you even want a following if it's not your content and it's not organic and it's not quality?
Yeah. Well, and this is the other thing too. Okay. So,
What are you offering people if you don't even have your own content?
Correct. And also, this is another thing where we happen to work in the field, you guys, where I really believe this. You earn your stripes.
Absolutely.
And experience is everything. So if you're doing something in the social media space and you're going to talk on things,
you better know your stuff.
know your shit. You better. And that's a big thing too, is like, I look around sometimes and I don't want to knock people, but I really believe that if you cannot confidently say, I can do all of these things and talk about
Can I
this.
be petty?
Yeah.
Okay. Like, there's someone that knocks off Tori and they're posting this whole caption and informative post about hydrocephalus. And they post a picture of a baby that does not have a hydrocephalus in the picture and is clearly on ECMO. What the hell?
And then it's kind of like,
do you even know what you're talking about? You're just regurgitating
and
information.
it's also a copied post from...
You're stealing someone else's educational post, and then you're Googling a NICU baby that doesn't even have the diagnosis. So you lose all credibility to me. Why would I want to follow your page when you're not even one? I mean, not everyone knows that it's not her information, because unless they follow both and put two and two together, they're not going to know that the information's knocked off.
So, and this may seem harsh, you guys, but I really want this to be a very confident, like a good thing, where it's like, you just need to be self-aware when you're coming into the social media space on what your goal is.
You're also not going to make it in the space if you're not putting out original content, because people aren't going to work with you. If there was an up and coming NICU nurse that said, hey, I'm a new nurse, you're an experienced NICU nurse, can I do a collaboration post with you and talk about what it's like to be a new nurse in the NICU? You'd be like, yes, you're a preceptor.
100%.
You precept new nurses. You love to foster that growth and development. I mean, that's why you put out the educational stuff, because you want to build up people. You've encouraged so many people to go into the NICU space. You would be all for that. So if you're coming up in the space, do it right.
Yeah.
And if you don't know what you're talking about, don't post on it, because you lose all credibility when you're posting a picture that doesn't even match your caption. Why would I follow your page? It doesn't lose credibility. But there's a way to build relationships in this space, and that's one of them. Telling someone, hey, I want to partner with you. I'm an up and coming nurse. You inspired me to become a NICU nurse. Or I've been a NICU nurse for a couple years and you've been a NICU nurse for 9 years. Can we
And
can
giving
I work
credit where
with you?
credit's due. Look, I have
You repost people and you always
all the
give
time.
them credit.
I always give credit. And that's something you guys also in the healthcare world, you need to do, right? We do quote unquote site sourcing. So you need to be able to say like, look, like I love this post and I want to repost it. I've done that several times, and I'll say thank you for the inspired post, or like
especially
I give credit, give a tag.
You were really heavy in the NICU world. You would post L&D and NICU go hand in hand. So when you were heavy in the NICU world, you would repost stuff from like mommy labor nurse, but you would always shout her out and thank you for the cross information, because your post or your informative blog or whatever that she's talking about as far as mom directly translates into my NICU baby.
Correct.
And you can work together in that sense.
Correct.
But you're giving credit.
That's another thing too, is like back to the whole idea of like growing your media, you know, first of all, finding the angle on what you want, being unique to you, finding your branding. That's a huge thing. The next thing, and a big topic that I think is really interesting, someone asked what not to post. Ooh, okay. So this could be a deep dive on this, because here's how I feel it. I know Katie came on here and she spoke about it, and she basically, her thing was you should not be posting at all if you're in like a patient care area, right? Ever. Okay. And here's the thing. I'm going to give you guys the flip side of the coin and the reality, right? Everybody wants to see what we're doing. Everybody.
Yeah, it's interesting.
It is. It is
and
interesting.
You want the real scoop.
Right.
Anyone can post a cute picture in scrubs and be like, look at me, I'm a nurse.
Right. And, you know, you can do that on, you know, and that's kind of been my new model because I don't want to get in trouble, but I get it. People want to see your environment. They want to see where you are. And there's a lot of people out there that are posting those pictures of patient care areas. And
enter at your own risk.
That's where I just want to say, yes, you just have to be
Is it worth losing your job
careful
over social media?
Yes. If you think at all that it could jeopardize your job, I don't think it would be worth posting. So here's the thing. I have posted, and I will be very honest about this. I've had pictures with my friends at work.
After our shift, we took a picture together, and I'm posting it days later. I'm not actually like, sitting at the nurse's station.
Correct.
Should be charting, and I'm on my phone posting.
And I don't post at work. That's another thing. I never post at work. And it's funny because I will do sometimes like a little moment where I can like talk to you guys and just give you a little like tidbit on something that's going on in my head about a dynamic.
You pop
but
in.
I don't. But then this is kind of another thing. You have to be very careful also about HIPAA. And I never talk about, I don't know if you guys know this or realize this, but I don't talk about diagnosis at all. I talk about dynamics. Yeah. And I think that's important to kind of hone in on. A lot
of people are so misinformed about HIPAA. One, half the people don't know even how to spell it.
AKA me. I'm you guys, I'm a horrible speller.
It is not two P's, it is two A's. HIPAA. Anyways. But a lot of people are misinformed. They think just because they're not giving a patient's name or age or diagnosis that they didn't violate HIPAA. But it's a slippery slope because people know where people work. So if you're on there and you're talking about the horrible day you had and this horrible patient or this diagnosis or this went wrong and this patient coded and had this emergency surgery and this happened and all that, it's not that hard for someone to be like, oh my God, they're talking about my neighbor. Right. And then to tell their neighbor, like, isn't your baby in the NICU? This sounds familiar. Or isn't your grandpa like so-and-so at this hospital right now in this unit? And it's a 10-bed unit or something. It's like a small world, you guys. It's not that hard for so-and-so to like, I mean, I have taken care of patients where someone's like, oh, you were my cousin's nurse. And I'm like, oh, okay, great. Yeah. I don't talk about things like that on my shift because it can easily get traced back to you and you don't think you're violating HIPAA, but you're like giving enough information out where you're putting yourself in a position that you shouldn't. Yeah. And I think it's being very smart about what you're doing. And here's the thing. And I want people in this space. I'm going to be very honest. I want people. It's good. We need to be talking about it. We need to have a presence in healthcare. We need to be doing this. What I'm getting at is if you're going to be in a creative space, you need to get creative. And be smart about it.
and talk about things that are in your scope. Talk about things that are in your, like, you know, you just need to really know. And again, healthcare is very much earn your stripes. And I'm a big believer in that. You know, there's times where I've seen certain things, and as Sam mentioned, it gets a little frustrating when you know that someone's speaking on something that they're out of turn. Mm-hmm. And I don't have energy to go out there and fix everybody, but that's kind of something that I think is really important to kind of hit on. The next thing, so, you know, for me, as far as like pictures, if you're going to be honest, I do most of my pictures. We batch our pictures. Sam and I have actually hired the same freelance photographer. We love her.
Hi.
We love you, Tawny. So we do that on a day, and I just pick out content, or you just strategize and think ahead, right? So there's that. SimLab, I actually think is free for all. If you guys, I feel like SimLabs are great ways. It's a safe space. You don't have any HIPAA any issues there.
God. Jane Doe.
Right. You know, I think there's ways you can get creative and make things. And, you know, for me, you guys, I've done, you know, I had to get creative with how I wanted to show my baby dolls. And so you just get creative with it.
Yeah. Remember when you hooked up the doll, but like you showed a monitor, but you hooked it up to like a real human, like not a non-patient.
So
you hooked it up to a fellow nurse.
Yeah.
So you put the lead on her.
It looked like it was like 60.
Yeah. So you put the lead on her.
Yeah.
But then like show the doll. But it's like, hey, that was creative. I loved that. That was awesome.
Well, you know, you can get creative with it. And, you know, the other thing too is you
can talk about struggles in nursing too. Just don't do it immediately getting off your shift.
Yeah.
Don't get off your shift and on your way home rant about the horrible shift you had and all the stuff that went wrong in it, because that can get traced back to you and it can negatively impact you.
Yeah.
Sleep on it.
Yeah.
Take a breather.
Yeah.
Go back a few days.
I've done that, you guys.
A week later, be like, you know, there's just things in healthcare that I want to talk about as a nurse, and, you know, make sure, again, you're being very careful about not violating HIPAA within that. But I would always sleep on it. Give it a few days. Sometimes when things happen and it's fresh, you got that emotion pumping through you. You want to talk about it in real time. I don't advise that. I say, take a step back, take a deep breath.
Right.
Wait a few days, speak on it later and after the fact, because it's too new and it's too fresh.
Can we talk about my latest pet peeve?
Yes. I love a pet peeve.
I've gone on a rant about this, and I wanted you guys, if you're...
I know what's coming.
This is, okay, my biggest pet peeve. Okay, social media, right? The word is social. And I see this trend happening all over Instagram, and I'm going to just put it out there as this is my biggest, newest pet peeve. I cannot stand it when someone tags me in a picture and then decides to drag me down in that corner.
Bottom right corner.
Bottom corner, and put all of us together in that little corner.
20 people in there.
Like, I want to say to every person that does that, like, stop. Because it's like, basically that's a way for you to get clickbait.
Yeah.
It's like you're basically telling me like, hey, Tori, look at this picture that I just did, and I want you to like it on it, but I'm not gonna
actually feature you,
socially interact and feature you back.
Yeah.
It's like, really?
If you tag me in your picture, I will not like it.
No, I go a step further. I untag
myself.
Tag myself in all those pictures.
Yes, I not only will I untag myself, but I will not give you the courtesy like.
Here's the thing, and I've heard this as a thing to it is, like, well, I do that because then it clutters it clutters up the picture, and I'm like, that's bullshit, because when you look at the picture,
it doesn't show the tags unless you click on it.
Then you see everybody. So I'm like, that's bullshit.
That's
no. And this trend is driving me nuts. And can everyone just,
Stop.
Here's the thing, it's a social network. I want to see when people tag me, I actually go into the picture and I see who else is on that picture. I actually care that much, you guys. And this is why maybe, I don't know. I mean, I'm very invested in this community. So these are just things that like I'm bringing to you as someone who's been in the space, and I have a lot to say about it. But I will go into the picture if you're tagging me and look at the post and see the person, and I engage with it. Thank you for tagging me. I appreciate that. But if you put Tori in the corner, and
stack it with 20 other people.
Yeah, it's like, why are we doing that? Why is that a trend?
Why?
I don't understand.
Be tagging people if you're not utilizing tags correctly. Also, fuck you.
Yeah, well, okay, you need to understand why are you tagging someone then? Why are you even tagging them in the first place? Are you just doing it for the clickbait? Like, I don't understand. You know?
Yeah, okay, if you're tagging me, I expect it to be a post that's relevant to my community, my audience, my purpose, my aesthetic. If it's not, it's like, why are you tagging me in this? This has nothing to do with me.
Yeah. So I want to move into a couple, because I have gotten so many questions about this, about types of marketing.
Yeah, there's a lot of misinformation in this
So much
area.
misinformation. And to be honest, it's hard because like I'm coming at you as someone who's just gone through a lot of different experiences. So this is just coming from my own personal experiences and my own personal research on this, you guys. So I've done a lot of this, and I am very invested in it because I want people here in this space, and I want to hear stories and your innovation and all these entrepreneurs and things that's going on in the healthcare space. Like it's great. But I do think kind of understanding what the types of marketing are, because one of the most common questions is like, well, how do you become a paid person, or how do you manage, what do you say yes to, what do you say no to?
Well, and
blah,
some
blah, blah.
people tag their posts with paid sponsorships. Sometimes people just tag a company, but it
Correct.
doesn't say like, what does
and
all that
what
mean?
do you say add on? What do you say hashtag sponsored? Like what's
the hashtag rules? What's going on?
Right. Okay. So
drop some knowledge, girl.
Well, okay. So this is kind of, I've done a little bit of like, these are basically the 4 most common things that I'm seeing. So there's paid partnerships. Okay. That's the first one, which as a statement tend to be long-term partnerships. Those are partnerships that are usually included with a contract. So that's something where you and a company agree to work long term. You agree to some sort of payment on whatever the payment is, whether it's product and payment, whatever. And it's usually involved with a contract. And I want to say this as a point blank, you guys, because I have learned the hard way. Never sign a contract without a lawyer looking at it. Ever.
That's not just for social media. That is good life practice.
Okay? And I will tell you guys, I made some very bad decisions. I have made very bad business deals because I was not aware of that. Okay.
Even at work, if you get written up, don't sign it necessarily.
I know. You got to be careful about what you're signing. Anything that you're signing your name to, just please forever. And if a company is requiring you to sign one and you don't feel comfortable, I wouldn't do it without.
If they're pushing you to sign something without having representation look it over, that's already sketchy in itself.
I wouldn't do it.
Yeah.
And a lot of companies will say, "Oh, it's just for la la la."
It's just a formality. It's this and that.
No, you need to have a lawyer look at it, and
they might point out something to you like, this says that, right? And you're like, "What? It does?"
Yeah. Someone could own your likeness. Someone could you have no idea what they could do with that picture or whatever the content is. Like you guys, you just need to be very careful. Okay. So that paid partnerships is number 1. Number 2 is affiliate marketing, which is probably the most common as far as how people approach it. So affiliate marketing is essentially when you are affiliated with a company and you can make money on it. Typically it's you can get compensation, but oftentimes, so it's basically an agreement between you and the company. It's not always paid. You have next one-off deals, which is basically a company which you and I get these all the time, where it's a company who says, "Hey, like, can we do a paid post for blah,
CBD
blah, blah.
oil?" It's always CBD oil.
It's always CBD, or it's
People are either in my DMs asking for feet pictures,
CBD.
or they want me to promote their CBD oil.
Yeah,
there's no in between.
So it's like a one-off deal. It's a one-time. It's not long-term. It's just this one thing.
We'll pay you to post this one thing.
Correct. The next one is just free product. So a company says, we want to send you free product and see what you think, right?
Will you post a review?
Correct.
If I send you our product.
All right. So, there's a lot of misinformation, I think, when it comes to what the standard is, right? So I actually pulled up the FTC rules because I'm very engaged. I think this is important and this is something we should all be talking about.
Like I said, Tori likes quality. She's not going to speak on
because I think
without giving you the real information.
Yeah, you should know. Okay, so the FTC released in 2019 a whole entire influencer marketing,
which is so funny that we've even gotten to a place in our world where that even exists.
I know.
Like this wasn't even needed prior to 2019. And then they're like, we got to rein this in somehow and have some stipulations.
Yes, exactly.
It is a wild west.
We need to make some standards.
Yeah.
And so the FTC did do that. They released it, I want to say it was December of 2019. And so a lot of the questions kind of is using the hashtag ad enough, right? What is sponsored, what is sponsored Instagram stories? Like, how do you do this? So when do FTC rules of disclosure apply? So essentially, anytime if you're endorsing a product through social media and you have a relationship or connection with a brand in some way, whether it is personal, family, employment relationship, financial, and the brand is paying you or giving you free product or discounted product, you have to state that. That is per the FTC rules of disclosure. And they are cracking down. So I know a couple of influencers have gotten called out on this, like big influencers. They're cracking down on the bigger influencers first, and it trickles down to all of us, smaller, micro. I mean, you could probably get away with doing things and not get called out, but the bigger you are, the more of a target you become. So
also, it's better to be upfront with your followers, because that
basically
not,
the
like,
FTC is trying
honesty.
to stop deceptive ads from happening,
Which
right?
I'm all for.
Yes, I agree, because it's annoying. Like when you don't know if someone's making a kickback on this or making commission, like that's very annoying. And I actually think, and obviously, yes, is it annoying that everyone is there are certain accounts out there that you know them where they do so many of these, and
That's
it's so
all they
annoying.
do, and you're like, do I even want to follow them anymore? Because everything's another freaking ad.
Right. So it's kind of like it is annoying, but it all comes down to transparency.
Yes.
Be
Love that word.
transparent. So how to disclose sponsored Instagram posts. So whether you're a brand, an agency, running an Instagram, as an influencer, you're in a marketing campaign or things like that, it is your responsibility to ensure that you're in compliance. If you're getting in bed with a company, you guys, you got to know what you're doing.
Ooh la la.
Ooh, hello. So the first rule, according to the FTC, so you have to place something with your disclosure so it's hard to miss. So one of the things that I know a lot of companies have been telling me lately is you have to post #ad or #sponsored within the first 3 lines of the ad.
Not at the very bottom or
Not
in
at
the
the bottom.
comments of your
Yes.
hashtags.
So that's the first thing is visibility. And that does include if you're unboxing material, which I didn't know this until I read this. You're supposed to, because technically you are, even though it's free material and you're not getting paid, if a company sends you something, that is an ad. You opening something on Instagram and showing it in your stories is an ad.
And it is, because it's free advertisement for that company.
Correct.
They're hitting people that they might not have hit because they follow you, and now their products are being showcased. And I think that kind of goes back to even what Dr. Mike said about know your worth. Don't post for free.
Yes.
I mean, and again, that's up to you and that's your personal choice, but I think that kind of goes back to what he's saying. It's like the FTC is considering it an ad.
Yes.
Free product is being considered an ad. So you are technically providing free advertisement for this company.
They cracked
and that's
down
what he means by saying that.
Lindsay Lohan, Naomi Campbell, like some pretty big accounts, I think, were called on by the FTC. A lot of influencers. And it's interesting because when you guys look up, for example, if you were to Google like how to become an influencer, or you were to Google how to advertise, the top advertising places right now are Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, Twitter, and TikTok, meaning we are all a part of that.
Yes.
Even if you're getting free things from a company, it's still an ad.
Yeah.
Or not an ad. That's, you are affiliated with the company.
Which boils down to free advertising for them.
Correct.
So know your worth.
Yes.
Shout out Dr. Mike.
Yes. Oh, so this is what it's called. And you guys can actually Google this. I'll link it in the show notes. The FTC, they published, it's called the Disclosures 101 for Social Media Influencers
I think
Guide.
you posted that before.
I did.
Yeah.
And I think
because you've been very transparent.
Yes. And I think that's actually, it's important. And I think we need to set the standard for it, and why we're looping this back in with this whole conversation of how people advertise.
And you've
how
shared that with
companies advertise.
our fellow Barco ambassadors.
I did.
We're in like a group chat, and she was even kind of just like, hey guys, this is good information, and shared that to fellow ambassadors.
Yeah. So when do the FTC rules of disclosure apply? So the FTC requires you to disclose when you have a financial, employment, personal, family relationship with a brand. So anytime basically a brand is sending you something, You need to disclose that. In the sense of, you could do hashtag ad, hashtag sponsored. It just depends on, and you may not be getting paid.
Yeah. Sponsored doesn't mean paid.
Sponsored does not mean paid.
Yeah. That's why there's paid sponsorship, and then there's just sponsored.
So, and that's a big question that I get is, it is frustrating, because I will say this, there have been times where I'm posting something for a company and Instagram does try, because it picks up on the fact that you're with that company.
Yeah,
it'll say, is this a paid post?
Yes.
And the hard part about that is, I think what happens is, if Instagram thinks that it is paid, then they will shadow ban that particular post, which is frustrating.
Yeah, Instagram's algorithm is a bitch.
It's a bitch. I will say that. And and it is harder and harder now, but you can still find ways to make it work.
Shadow ban me.
But I will say this, they love to shadow ban if they think that you're getting paid on a post. And you're just posting it as, like, let's say you're doing a giveaway. Let's say you're doing something where you're just doing a post because you like the product, whatever. They will, it does pop up. And if you're not a paid person, then don't put it. If you're not getting paid by the company, then you don't have to put that. Your obligation is to make sure that somewhere in that post that you are including hashtag ad or hashtag sponsored.
Transparency.
Transparency. Okay. And number 2, they want you to use simple and clear language as far as your disclosure. So meaning, you can still use terms like advertisement, ad, sponsored, but they want it very clearly visible to anyone who's engaging on the content, and they want it very clearly stated. Also, just honesty. I think that's a big thing. The FTC is really just there. It's kind of interesting because, like, looking through this, some of the things, like, for example, when you're unboxing, like, they're even saying the verbiage on here is just to even say that you're affiliated with them, or that I'm unboxing this, like, thank you for the gift. Like, it's very much like they realize that social media, you need to be social, and you kind of have to, you want to work in the products or the things so it's authentic to you, and it's not just like, oh, I just got a free gift. Like, they realize that. And it's interesting because they leave some room here for you as the influencer to really just show your authenticity with whatever the product or the brand is.
And I think the overarching thing is that they're actually protecting consumers.
Correct.
By making sure that there is a level of transparency.
Yes.
And I think that's why it also goes back to, it's important who you align yourself with, because even if it is a paid sponsorship or just a sponsorship, I don't put my name behind something that I didn't spend my own money on before I even affiliated with the companies.
I love that model.
Because I can sit there and be very honest with you and say, all right, I'm a Barco ambassador, but I was buying Grey's Anatomy scrubs before I was a Barco ambassador, before I even had this Hey Samantha Instagram account.
All we ever wore. That's all we ever wore.
So I've had Grey's Anatomy scrubs from Barco since before I even started this account.
You were the one who got me hooked up with Barco.
Yeah, I sure did, girl.
She was actually, you know what's funny? Okay, let's drop this story.
Yeah.
I didn't even know that Grey's Anatomy was with Barco.
Yeah,
I had no idea.
Grey's Anatomy.
I just loved Grey's Anatomy.
And you just started Tips from Tori.
Yes.
Tits from Tori.
Tits from Tori.
That's what I used to call her when she started her account, because I'm immature.
Yeah, Sam was the one that was like, hey, like, I have a friend that works at Barco.
You love Grey's Anatomy
scrubs. And I loved Grey's
Anatomy
Anatomy scrubs. And she was like, yeah, do you want me to get you hooked up? And that's when I got hooked up with Chris.
Yeah.
And we
here we are.
Yeah, and here we are.
And then Tori, like, and Chris used to hound me and be like, you need to start an account.
Yeah, and then I was like,
why do I want to be on social media? I don't want people all up in my grill.
Yeah.
And here I am.
Here we go.
But so that's a company that you have been a consumer from well before your relationship with them.
2012, baby.
Same as me. The other 2 companies that I am affiliated with is Kind of Fit, Kind of Fat Apparel. That's a like athletic powerlifting world, but they do strongman. They sponsor strongman. And again, I was buying their products before I became one of their athletes, one of their powerlifting athletes.
Right.
So I can proudly say that I have a ton of clothes from them that is part of my sponsorship with them as an athlete.
Yeah.
But I have a fair amount of clothes that I spent my own money on because I was a consumer first and I loved them so much. So then to work with them was a dream. I'm also a sponsored athlete for Notorious Lift deadlift slippers. And I bought at least like 4 pairs on my own and they just actually launched their athlete program this month. So I've been a long time consumer of them, and I love them because they donate like portion of all their shoes to different charities every month. They choose they just did breast cancer. They did ovarian cancer. They've done all sorts of things. Cute. So I can sit there and say, I have worked with 3 companies, but they are all 3 companies that I, one, was a consumer of with my own money before I ever had a relationship with them. And so when I'm recommending to people or saying, hey, this shirt, this shoe, this scrub, it's because I like the product. So I have no problem promoting it because I believe in the company, I believe in the brand, and I believe in the quality of the product that I'm recommending. And that's why you can't just be a yes man to everything that comes your way. Because I think it's kind of sketch and shady if you're promoting products that you wouldn't even spend your own money on, but you're just doing it for a simple payday. We don't need you in this space then.
Yeah, and it's annoying.
Be real.
I mean, we're all annoyed. I mean, here's the thing.
We want to buy Christmas gifts, have a little extra money. Who doesn't? I get it. But at the end of the day, if people are going to follow you, it's because they want real authenticity.
Yes. And I think it is interesting because obviously I think we hold a lot of weight in that space, you guys, in the social media space as healthcare providers, whether you're a nurse, an RT, you're a doctor, you're a PA, you're an OT, whatever. We hold a lot of weight. And I think we really need to set the standard for ourselves as providing the most quality, the things that you really believe in, being able to back it 100%. Like, take the classy route. I personally,
it's a marathon, not a sprint.
It is a marathon. And you want to, you really, really, I've thought very hard on this particular episode because I really strongly so believe in it. Like, I have turned down a lot of things purposely because I just think it's obnoxious. I don't want to bombard you guys. And the thing is, it's a balance, right? Like, I do like the idea of being able to compensate myself for all of these things that I'm producing. Yeah. So of course, there's going to be an element of that, but I've really tried to strategize. And as you guys know, it's no secret here. Like, for example, we're launching merch. I am, figuring out ways to monetize more in the way of blogging, trying to figure out how to, hear on and talking about things. Yes, and I want to be very honest with you guys, but it is a piece as a content creator when you're truly in this to be a content creator. So then the other thing too is that money that I make goes directly back into my business. Yes. Like, the money that I make and trust me, it's not, I don't make a lot, but it helps me compensate.
But it's helped you get this podcast
produce this podcast. Yes. Correct. Because the amount of hours that I have to do this, in order to make graphics, create all of these, interviews.
The equipment it took just to get this podcast started.
Yeah. Oh yeah. And there's monthly subscriptions. Like, you guys, there's a lot that goes into it. And so the money that I'm making goes directly back into my business. And so that's another aspect of it that I think is like the other thing too that you and I've talked about is like growing with these companies. So I think the expectation that you come in and you make money right away is like, that annoys me.
Yeah.
That assumption that you've been with a company and you just have a following and you should be paid right away is that is not how it works. You grow with a company, you work with them, and it's interesting. Like, for example, you can start as someone that gets free product and then you're like, oh my gosh, I love this. And then you work with them for longer and then you say, hey, like, can I help you do this on this campaign? And, when you show investment into the company and it's a mutual respect on, what you guys want to do together and you're growing together, and then it grows into an affiliate and then you grow into, eventually a paid partner. Like, that is how it goes. Like, it's very much earning your stripes. Yes. So I think that's kind of the mindset. If you're, and that comes down to picking quality companies. If you really want to be with someone and you really want to work with them, you kind of have to prove it. You need to, like, I put down my ego often when I want to work with a company. And I just basically say, like, these are the things I can offer you. This is why I want to do it. And this is why I believe in it. And I still think, and again, a lot of people listening are, why are you doing that? But I think it's important. I think it's important for healthcare providers to be in this space. And I want you here. And this is kind of like the fast track of all these things that I've learned over the past 3 years now. I'm like, I really want people in this space. And
Well,
I think
that's
important.
why you have the podcast, because you
Correct.
showcase so many people in the healthcare space from all different professions. You've had PAs, you've had MDs, you've had fellow nurses, you've had a musical therapist.
Yeah, Bree. Yeah, we had a lot. We had PA, NNP,
so many different
surgeons,
professions.
spinal surgeons, flight nurses, emergency, and I love that. And so it is interesting though. It's kind of this morphing of trying to figure out how to monetize it. And I personally really do like the roads less traveled. And I think that's another thing to speak to you guys about really quick. When we came into this space in 2017, 2018, the FIGS ambassadorship was already saturated.
Yes.
There was a lot
I didn't
of
come into
people.
this space till 2019.
And I want to say that in the sense of I like being in my little lane. I don't want to be, I think that's another thing is really learning what is your lane and stay in it and really focus on that. Put your blinders on. Don't look around.
Make it a pretty lane.
I like the pretty
Adopt
lane.
a highway, clean
Yes.
that trash up off the road. Make your lane
I
shine,
love that
girl.
lane. That's my lane. I want to live in that lane. And it's just, I think really all this coming back down to what is your brand?
Yeah.
And sticking to that. And what do you want to bring to the world?
I love how everything we talk about, we're like, falls back to this point, and then it
Yes.
falls back to choose your companies wisely, especially
Yes.
if you're following the Fair Trade Act
Yeah.
and you have to disclose these things.
Yeah.
And if you're going to be honest and transparent, choose carefully who you want to work with. And then
Correct.
that falls back to what is your brand?
Yeah.
Boom. We just tied all this shit together.
Oh, hey,
Damn,
a
it's
pretty
like
little
we're smart.
bow. I have one last thing. This one was, do you have to disclose, sorry, it's the last thing for the FTC. Do you have to disclose gifts or free products? The bottom line is yes, you guys. A lot of people assume that if no money is exchanging in hands, it doesn't qualify as a partnership or sponsored Instagram post. That assumption is incorrect. According to the FTC, a business gives you, if a business gives you free product with the expectation that you're going to promote it or discuss it, you have to disclose that.
Because free advertising.
Correct. So I love you guys. And I think this was such a fun one. I've been wanting to talk about this for a long time. And I know I just feel so strongly about this
It's
that
too
I
much
think
for stories, because I feel like you've spoken on it before, but it's too much.
It's so much. And I get it. Like, there's probably a lot of things in here that I didn't
This could have been a lot longer, but we got to cut ourselves off at some point.
Yeah.
But I feel like we really highlighted
Yes.
some important information that is not well known at all, even
It's
by
not.
people who are considered to be bloggers or micro influencers.
Yeah. And I think people are getting cracked down on, regardless of what it is. And the last thing I also want to speak on, and we forgot, this was kind of back to Instagram posts and blogging and things like that. I really feel like if you want to get into the blog world or Instagramming, you really need to be creating your own content. And where I'm going with this is I see also a trend where a lot of nurses are posting things from, quote, Google.
Yeah.
And they're pictures of whether it's patients or it's, they're using pictures from Google. And to me, it's funny because two thoughts come to my mind. The first thought is, first of all, you are essentially stealing a picture from a website that's not yours. And that's either copyright infringement or that's the first thing. The second thing is
unoriginal.
Thank you. It's unoriginal. Like it doesn't, if you want to get into the space, into a creative space, be creative.
Yes.
And figure out how to get a picture across with it. Like, that's the point of this is like, I have on my blog, you guys will see, like, I don't use other people's pictures. I use mine.
And
my
create
pictures.
your own content.
I create my own content. You need to create your own content. And have I used pictures from Google? Yep, I did. And you know what? I'm not doing that anymore. And they've all come down.
Yeah.
Not doing that anymore. That's
grown.
not the model. And I think if you are really wanting to be in that space, is to really be mindful of like, how am I going to do this? How create? I mean, my brain always goes back to Lisa, mommy labor nurse, she's just freaking killing it.
Yeah.
And she just makes all this great content and makes it fun and relatable, and it's not over the top. Like, her pictures are very simple to the point, but they're great. trauma, it's interesting looking around. I mean, there are a lot of different accounts who do use information or do use pictures from other accounts, and in a creative way to do that. What I have seen is, for example, some of the bloggers the NICU bloggers will team up with a mom and post one of her pictures to get that.
I was just going to say,
I like
play
that.
nice.
I like that.
If you're coming into this space, play nice.
Yeah.
Give credit where credit's due.
Yes.
And if you are kind of in a similar space to someone, partner with them. Do you remember when we were first starting and we started our little like side hustle, and we've created content together, our ebook and some report sheets and stuff.
Yeah.
And we had our like account, and someone like totally knocked it off.
Yeah.
And
we had two girls.
We had to go back and forth with them a little bit.
Yeah.
And be like, you literally stole like our branding and our slogan. And it was like, no, ours is one word different. It's like the Vanilla Ice, like the dun 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 dun. And he's like, no, mine's different. It has the tss. And you're like, listen, Vanilla Ice, you stole that shit. Play nice. Yeah. But how different would it be if someone was coming up and saying, oh my gosh, I love that you and Tori collaborate together as nurses and you're also friends and that you guys are creating this community. My friend and I want to do the same thing. Like, can we collaborate with you guys? We'd be like, yeah, let's hear about it. Maybe it's not the right move for us, but like we're open to hearing about it. Play nice.
Play nice.
Don't just like swipe or don't swipe.
Yeah. And I think that's also, I mean, that's just kind of a difference between Instagram, I think, is just something where just assume if you're going to be using hashtags, if you're going to be in the space of medical blogging, someone's going to see it. And you're going to get caught there. So play nice.
And build relationships.
Yes.
It's better to be friends with people.
That's the point.
Than to not be. So build relationships with people because you guys can build mutually beneficial friendships and relationships. And I've met so many cool people in this space.
Yeah.
But I play nice.
Yeah. And I do love, and I think this is kind of all, back to, just really knowing what you want in this space and going for it. And I'm a big fan for go for it and learn and shift and figure out, what it is. But just really stay true to who you are.
You're the one who pushes me in that sense where sometimes I get like hesitant or I start to push forward with my account and then I like pull back because stuff going on in my life. And you're the one that's like, go girl, go.
Yeah. I love it. And I think I have this like weird sick obsessiveness with it where I'm like, I think that I really enjoy this space. I love the social media space. I love podcasting probably the most, but
podcasting is the best.
This is the best. And longevity wise, this is just, I don't know. It is crazy too, like learning about the platforms. I will say this, the podcasting is so interesting to me because the reach is very different.
So different.
Very different kind of thing. Like I'm shocked by the amount of things. Like it's just great and I love it, and I think this space is for me, and I like, why? Because I like talking and I'm interested in people and and if you want to start a podcast, do it. I'm looking at you.
I know, it's coming soon.
But bottom line, wrapping all this up, you guys, is just stay true to your healthcare brand. Who are you? What do you want to bring to this? And you can be ratchet like Sam.
I am
or
so
glittery
ratchet.
like me. That's fine. But she is so true to who she is. I'm so true to who I am. And I want that.
Literally who I am on Instagram is who I am in real life.
It's very true.
There is no fake in it on
No
there.
fake in it. No filter. And I love that. And I think I'm very here for those moments where you just stick to who you are and be true to yourself. Stick to your brand and be very careful about who you partner with.
Yes.
Clearly. This week has taught us a lot of that. Yay.
We did it. I'm hungry.
All right, you guys. Thank you so much for listening. The per usual.
Yes.
Subscribe. Rate and review. You guys, first of all, this is Samantha's episode, so definitely let her know what's up.
I love when Tori sends me the reviews she gets for the episodes I'm on. It warms my little heart. She'll screenshot and be like, look at what this person said. So
your sassy mouth.
And then she has me back as a guest, and I love being a guest on her podcast. So please.
Well, technically you're co-hosting with me.
This one is I'm kind of pretty next level on this one. And follow me if you don't.
Follow Samantha.
I'm trying to get on the varsity team, you guys. Hey, Samantha with 2 A's.
follow Sam, drop her a DM, and also leave us a review. Let us know what you guys thought. I want to hear your thoughts. I love hearing what you have to say over in the reviews. And thank you so much for taking the time to do that. If you guys do, I will be sending over some super cute stickers and our selfie badge reel featuring Selena, our selfie icon.
So cute.
Head over to tipsfromtori.com to check out all of our episodes featured there. And then also we did do a collab with Brave Gowns. So we have a mask, a white, black, and pink one. If you guys want to head over, check the link in our bio on our Instagram. That's at CELLFIE_podcast. And we're
better be wearing your mask. So
yes.
Get one.
Get your mask, you guys. Come on now. This is not going anywhere anytime soon. They're $12, made here in the US. Fabulous. And thank you so much, you guys, for listening.
Love you, mean it.
Love you, mean it.